Dr. Susie Ellis, Executive Director of the International Rhino Foundation, and this is our annual State of the Rhino Address. Rhinos have been in the news a lot this year, and we're glad to see them getting so much attention. After all, 2 of the 5 rhino species could easily be lost in our lifetime. Rhinos across the globe are threatened by rampant poaching to feed illegal wildlife trade, by habitat loss, and other factors ranging from inbreeding to invasive species. 10 years ago, more than 21,000 rhinos roamed the earth. Today, rhinos number about 27,300, a 30% increase over the past decade. But shorter term, especially over the last 2 years, the global rhino population has seen a steady decline, dropping from a high of 29,000 in 2017 to that number 27,300 today. In Africa, criminals killed nearly 900 rhinos last year. While this is a decrease from 3.7 lost per day in 2015, last year still saw 2.4 rhinos lost a day, or the equivalent of 1 rhino every 10 hours. And this reduction in losses is only possible because of enormous protection efforts. And without it, rhinos would be in far worse shape. But it's not all doom and gloom. Rhino conservation has seen some spectacular successes over the years. Thanks to strict protection by government agencies in India and Nepal, the greater one-horned or Indian rhino has come back from fewer than 100 in the early 1900s to more than 3,600 today. Beginning in 2009, IRF and our partners in Indian Rhino Vision 2020 worked together to establish a new population in Assam's Manas National Park. 18 animals have been born in the park, and we're delighted to report that we've just had our 2nd birth this year, which brings the population to 36 animals. The government of South Africa and dedicated conservationists teamed up to bring the southern white rhino back from fewer than 50 individuals in the early 1900s to more than 18,000 today, although that population has slightly declined over the past 2 years because of poaching. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is that white rhinos have higher poaching levels than black rhinos, particularly in South Africa's Kruger National Park, largely because they generally tend to live in more open habitats and they're far easier to target. Sadly, from 2012 to 2017, the poaching scourge led to a 15% decrease in white rhino numbers. Africa's other rhino species, the black rhino, is slowly coming back from horrendous losses. By 1993, fewer than 2,300 black rhinos remained from populations of more than 65,000 in the 1970s. Today, black rhino numbers about 5,500, but they are also being hard hit by poaching and thankfully so far are holding their own. We can't let down our guard for 1 minute. Moving to Asia, fewer than 80 Sumatran rhinos remain, and because it has declined more than 70% in the past 20 years, this species is likely the most endangered large mammal on the planet. 3 tiny isolated populations remain on Indonesia's Sumatra Island and a very small handful in Kalimantan on Indonesian Borneo. Remaining populations are heavily guarded by anti-poaching units, but despite protection, the numbers continue to decline. Last year, the government of Indonesia developed a Sumatran Rhino Emergency Action Plan with plans to rescue rhinos and bring reproductively viable animals into large semi-natural breeding and research facilities like the Sumatran Rhino Sanctuary, with the goal of increasing population numbers. Javan rhinos still number no more than 68 animals and are found only in Indonesia's Ujung Kulon National Park. That population is also heavily protected and has remained fairly stable over the last 10 to 20 years. And Fortunately, because of rhino protection ongoing work, there has been no poaching in Ujang Kulon in more than 25 years. On the international scene, in August, representatives from nearly every country in the world convened in Geneva, Switzerland for the 18th Conference of the Parties for the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. At the conference, wildlife trade issues for a number of species were discussed, including charismatic species like rhinos and elephants, as well as other species such as sturgeons, coral, and a variety of plants. 3 rhino proposals were brought before the parties. The first by Eswatini, or Swaziland, proposed to allow the country unrestricted international commercial trade in its specimens of southern white rhino, their horn, and products. That proposal was resoundingly rejected. Namibia also put forth a proposal to allow live trade in southern white rhinos to appropriate destinations. That proposal was also rejected. A third proposal by South Africa was put forth requesting that the hunting quota for black rhinos be increased from 5 adult males to a total number of adult males not exceeding 0.5% of its total black rhino population. The parties approved that proposal with amendments, although it's not clear what those amendments are at this juncture. This year, there's been a lot of media attention on successes with assisted reproductive technology, or ART, and conservation genetics for rhinos. ART may one day play a vital role in securing the future for rhino populations. In September, European scientists recovered eggs from the last 2 female northern white rhinos, both of which are non-reproductive, successfully fertilized them with frozen thawed sperm from 2 deceased northern white rhino bulls. 2 of the eggs grew to early stage embryos and have been frozen and are awaiting implantation into a southern white rhino surrogate. That same team recovered 1 egg from the last Sumatran rhino female, also non-reproductive, in Sabah, Malaysia, which hopefully can be matured and frozen. In July, U.S. scientists produced a southern white rhino calf using frozen semen and artificial insemination. And in May, another group of U.S. scientists hormonally induced ovulation in a greater one-horned rhino and used artificial insemination to produce a calf. We follow and applaud these developments with great interest, while also noting that it's really important to keep them in perspective, particularly for a subspecies that is functionally extinct like the northern white rhino. No species has ever been saved using ART alone, and attempting to use ART to bring back any subspecies or species is a complex, highly difficult endeavor. These recent developments are critically important, but they're just the first steps on a long, long journey with no guarantee of success. There is no roadmap for ensuring the survival of rhino species, and what we know for sure is that there is more work than we can ever accomplish in our lifetimes. That's why the International Rhino Foundation partners with like-minded organizations and individuals who share our vision and our goals. Our policy is to try to maximize options and minimize regrets, tackling the challenges facing rhinos using multifaceted strategies. For all 5 rhino species, the highest priorities are also the most basic: bolstering anti-poaching activities, or boots on the ground, maintaining intensive monitoring and active management of wild populations, establishing captive populations if they're needed, and working with local communities so that they can benefit from rhino conservation. The problem is no longer just about conservation biology. Some countries have elevated rhino crimes to the highest levels commensurate with terrorism. As such, we need to intensify international pressure on range country governments, not only to enforce their wildlife laws, but also to honor their commitments to international treaties like CITES, and to foster more effective and successful international collaboration on investigations to address the entire criminal supply chain, particularly in Asia. I'd like to close by saying how very much all of us at the International Rhino Foundation appreciate your commitment to rhinos and your belief in our work. That's what buoys us. Thank you very much.